Hey, how you doing? It's Dave Duford here at buylifeinsuranceforburial.com, where I help people like you find affordable life insurance in all walks of life. And in today's video, I am detailing what the best life insurance options are for disabled seniors. So most likely you're here today watching this video because you or a loved one are disabled, whether it's a physical ailment or otherwise. And you're looking to see what your options are at potentially purchasing a life insurance program. So if you're looking for details and facts and assistance, then stick around because this video is designed specifically to do just that for you. So let's get started. So let's start first with an overview. I'm going to formally introduce myself to you as well as my company. Then we're going to define what disabled senior really means in case there's any kind of confusion, as well as describing why a disabled senior needs life insurance. And then we're also going to answer the question, does receiving a disability affect the ability to qualify for life insurance, in case there's any concerns about if you're disabled and you receive Social Security disability, or you can't work anymore and you receive disability from an insurance plan. We'll talk about that more in length. We're also going to talk about the different types of options that are available for life insurance for disabled seniors, which includes term life insurance, whole life insurance, and guaranteed issue life insurance. So we'll talk about the pros, the cons, and then I'm going to go into some rates so you can see them to get an idea of what you could actually qualify for. Then I'm going to describe to you how to help you pick the best life insurance option for your needs. Then we'll wrap it up, talk about how to apply in the next steps. So my name is David Duford. I am the founder and owner of buylifeinsuranceforburial.com. I've been licensed as a life insurance agent since the year 2011, and since then I've helped over 3,000 families with their life insurance needs, and I'm also a published author. I have published a consumer guide called The Official Guide to Buying Final Expense Life Insurance, and I also train and recruit agents to help people like you in their local communities. I have hundreds of agents nationwide, and last but not least, I am a married man with my 4th child on the way, so wish my wife luck. So let's talk about and define what a disabled senior is in case there's any kind of confusion. So a lot of what I would define as a disabled senior is based off of personal experience. Again, most of my experience selling life insurance and helping people with life insurance has been dealing with people, generally speaking, over 50. Many of these people have been disabled. They have lost their jobs because of some thing that has happened at work, perhaps some illness that has prevented them from returning to work, and they've been eligible and have been approved for Social Security disability. I've also dealt with adults that are just physically disabled and have been their entire lives. So let me define to you what I would consider disabled senior, and I think you'll more or less agree that this is accurate. The simple approach is somebody who is disabled and cannot work. It's somebody who literally, maybe they worked on a manufacturing line their whole lives and they've developed severe arthritis or arthritis in their back, and the physical act of that work, their profession that they're skilled at, cannot be completed without severe pain. Or perhaps they've come down with a heart attack and they're over-the-road truck drivers, and they take diabetes insulin or something like that, and then the government will not allow you to do that anymore. That's somebody who is disabled and cannot work. And this is also somebody I would define as somebody who's drawing disability. So somebody who is has had an event happen, who has appealed multiple times to receive their disability and finally got it, and now receives a Social Security disability payment. And that may or may not be in combination with a long-term disability plan. Just depends on the circumstances. But either way, it's somebody who gets their income usually from Social Security disability. And it may or may not have a learning disability either. It can go either way. A lot of the disabled seniors I deal with simply are people who weren't disabled and fell onto bad times and health factors outside of their control, and now just simply cannot work. So that's the vast majority of the people I see. And the other thing that's related to all of these particular circumstances is they're severely budget restricted. There's no, anybody who's on disability will tell you they're not making a lot of money. it is meager, especially in comparison to what they used to make. And so when you have somebody who's receiving disability, it's enough just to barely get by. So a lot of people who are concerned and looking for life insurance are concerned about the price and are budget restricted. So this is another characteristic that's similar amongst people who are disabled. And most likely this has been the case. There's been a serious past health issue that's been related to this disability. A lot of the times what you'll see, somebody may have, I have a lady that was a high-powered executive as a client, and she came down with severe rheumatoid arthritis in combination with severe bipolar, and it made her completely incapable of working, and she's drawn disability for 15, 20 years. So there are people who are in those circumstances, and they literally cannot work, and they have a serious past health issue. So if you're yourself or a loved one most likely fits that position, then yeah, I mean, that's how I would look at a disabled senior. So again, this is my definition. This isn't some sort of formal definition by an insurance company. I just want to convey to you that I understand what it's like to work with somebody who is disabled and what their circumstances are. But it's usually a fairly thorough description of what people are looking for when they go out and try to find life insurance, and then they describe themselves as disabled. So let's talk about why seniors who are disabled should get life insurance. So look, there's no difference between myself or you. You need to have life insurance right now. There's no better time to buy life insurance than in the present moment. And I'm going to try to make my case to you so I can appeal to your better half, and as well as to your mind and heart as well. So let me explain. So let's face it, I'm 33. I'm only getting older. You may be much older than that. You're only getting older. Nobody gets out of this life alive after all. So with life insurance, as you know, rates continue to increase as you age up and up. And let's face it, your health will continue to decline. Everybody's does. Nobody gets out who's in the same shape as their 30s as they are in their 70s. That's just not the circumstances of reality. And with the declining health comes declining options for life insurance. If you have a heart attack in 6 months, and then you try to apply for quality life insurance, it'll be declined. Or even if you get something like a progression in your diabetes, you'd go from medications to pills to insulin. That can affect your ability to be insurable. So these are the things that we know are coming: older age and a declination in health. And prices are going up. Look, they go up because of these two factors we just mentioned, because of age increasing, as well as because of health declining. And yeah, it may not be convenient to pay right now, but imagine what happens in 5 to 10 years. It'll be even more inconvenient to pay. And on top of that, a lot of people buy a life insurance plan to pay for funerals and cremation expenses. And just like every other thing in life, these prices continue to rise as well. We had a 25% increase over a 10-year period of time in funeral and cremation prices. What was $6,000, $6,500 in 2004 for a burial, now we're looking at about $8,700 for the same exact thing, same service, same items. And this will continue to rise every 10 years in similar fashion. So you've got to be prepared financially for these costs, because they're not getting less expensive either. And more people have less and less disposable income. Again, that's just a fact of the matter. There is a divide between those who have and those who have not. And that divide grows more and more with each passing year. And again, you should lock in a price for a budget you can afford while you have something that you can allot towards it, because as time goes on, that gets more difficult. And again, that's why the sooner you lock in a final expense life insurance program, the better. That is what sets you up. That's what gives you the peace of mind, and it locks in a lower price, especially if you get the right one, which we'll talk about in a little while. Some of them aren't right. They go up in price. Others are locked in place, and you never have to worry about price increases. So let's talk about that in a little while, but hopefully you can understand why it's better to do something now versus later. So you may be wondering, if you or your loved one is disabled, how does that actual disability affect your ability to life insurance qualify for life insurance? So ultimately, since disability covers a lot of different health problems, it's impossible for me to tell you, yes, your disability is going to allow you to qualify or not. And when it comes down to it really just comes down to speaking to an agent like myself. Some bright spots, I would say, disabled seniors can qualify for life insurance. I can tell you that much. What kind of life insurance and what the pros and the cons of that is going to depend on your unique health circumstance. I've gotten people who have bad health history with coverage put into force. I've had people, when I say bad health history, I'm talking about a history of heart problems, history of cancer, history of lung disease like COPD, diabetes, high blood pressure, neurological problems like lupus or multiple sclerosis, mental health problems like depression or bipolar, and many other issues that would normally the person would consider themselves in bad health and would be disallowed of having coverage, actually get covered fairly simply. So don't count yourself out. That's why it's important to talk to me and figure out what your options are. Also, if you're recently disabled, let's say something has happened, you just started receiving your disability. Well, usually the reception of disability, meaning when you get your check every month, if it just started, that's not an event that will fare negatively against you. Most life insurance companies aren't going to look at necessarily when disability starts. They're going to look at what caused your disability, how long ago did it happen, what was the severity, what were the circumstances afterwards. That's what they're more concerned with. So starting disability is really the best time to start a life insurance program because you can lock in your rates right when you have the money to do so. And you can do this even on a tight budget as well, because all people who receive disability, generally speaking, are on a tight budget. So let's talk about the different life insurance options for seniors, because here's the thing. When we look at life insurance, the truth is life insurance is not one similar thing. Life insurance is an all-encompassing term, and there's different types of life insurance depending on the circumstances. And the key here is to help identify, first of all, what your goal is in owning life insurance. You need to better get an idea of what matters the most for you. And then the goal is based on your goals, you should be better able to identify the kind of plan that matches that goals the best. So there are typically 3 different types of life insurance options available for disabled seniors. And so what we're going to do is start by showing term, then whole, then guaranteed issue. And then what we're going to do here is talk about the pros, cons, and rates with each. So what we're going to start with first is term. So term insurance is short for terminating life insurance. When you take out a term life insurance plan, it will potentially, it will for sure if you outlive it, cancel at a future date. So the most common version of term life insurance is what you see in the mail, most likely from Globe Life or AARP, New York Life. And those plans are designed to cancel at 80 and have 5-year price increments where things go up as you get older. And if you outlive that, even with the price increases, you have a chance of losing it. The term insurance runs out at 80. So why would somebody buy term insurance? And this kind of goes into the pros. First of all, the biggest reason is affordability. Term insurance usually gives you more coverage for less of a premium dollar put into the plan. The downside of this is you can outlive it. But term insurance is more appropriate in circumstances where people have debts, mortgages, and they need a larger amount of coverage in order to cover those debts. However, the problem with a lot of the junk mail and TV advertisement term companies is that they have the worst terms inside the plan. They go up in price, they cancel at 80. These are things that aren't necessary. So what I want to show you are some possibilities for coverage that you might be able to get. So what I want to tell you is with term insurance, a lot of the times you can get coverage where you don't have price increases. You lock in a price for the foreseeable future, whatever it's a 10-year, 15 or 20-year term. It depends on your age when you buy it and what your budget is, and you'll pay a lot less for coverage. So what I'm going to do real quick, I'm just going to compare what AARP New York Life's term insurance runs versus what you could get at with a broker like me, and show you the big difference in pricing. And I'm just going to show you a 65-year-old male and a 65-year-old female, just so you can see the difference and get the concept across. I can't tell you whether or not you'd be approved for either company. This is just for the sake of your education, but this will just give you some perspective on the contrast between what this offer is versus what I could do and the advantages of it. So stay tuned. Let me pull it on the screen. Okay, so the screen you're looking at here is AARP's level benefit term life insurance. This is the product that I was talking about a moment ago. And just to give you a quick description here, if we look at the features and benefits, you can see right here where it says affordable rates that increase over time. And so what that means is there are these 5-year rate incremental price increases. And if we go down here to the description here, it says this insurance coverage can never be canceled without your consent. As long as you pay premiums when they're due and your enrollment form contains no misrepresentations about your medical history, you're covered to age 80. That just means you lose coverage after age 80. Hopefully that makes sense. So here are some prices I drew up here. We're comparing men and women at age 65. So if a man wants $50,000 in term life insurance at age 65, he's going to pay $144 a month to begin. Now this will go up again at 70 and then again at 75. Now take a look at this screen. We've got a $50,000 plan, a 15-year term, which means that the prices you're seeing, assuming you could qualify for, remain level until age 80. That means there's no price increases for 15 years. And if you take a look at, let's just say one in the middle, Sagicor, you're looking at a potential price point of $80.82. And that compares to a price that AARP New York Life is charging of $144. And you may be even a little bit higher priced than this. Sometimes we offer what's called rated plans. It just depends on your health. I don't even know if you could qualify for this, but for the sake of examples purposes, let's say it was another $50 higher. You're still saving money when compared to AARP, and your premium's locked in place. That's what's really important about this description here, is that with level term insurance, if you're insistent on having level term insurance, you want to lock in your premiums for the length of the term. So if you know it's going to cancel with 80 and you're willing to take that on, at least lock in the prices. Even if it's the same price or even slightly more to start with, it's still in the long term a better deal. Now we're looking at females at age 65 here, $121 for a $50,000 term life insurance. Same deal with AARP. Price increases every 5 years, cancels at 80. If we compare that with a female rate for $50,000 for a standard price, 15-year fixed prices and coverage for 15 years, again, you're looking at $60, $70 roughly. It could be less, could be more for the same exact thing. So instead of, say, 60 to 70, instead of 121, big difference in price. And you get that price locked in for that length of time too. So hopefully I made my case here as to why term insurance, the pros and the cons of it. I'm a big believer that with term insurance, the most appropriate use is to cover large, substantial debts and the potential of dying before they're paid off. The most common would be a mortgage. You could also use term insurance for income replacement. If, for example, you died and you have the larger pension and the loss of that pension would affect your livelihood or your spouse's surviving livelihood, then maybe owning a term insurance plan to protect against that is a smart idea as well. But make sure that you get a term insurance plan, in my opinion, that doesn't have these incremental increases when you least need them. That's the most problematic kind, in my opinion. So next on the list here is whole life insurance. A little bit different from term life. Whole life insurance is designed to have more warranties and guarantees on price and coverage. It's designed as permanent protection. So the concept behind whole life is to solve permanent financial problems. So one of the topics we discussed earlier that will always be a permanent problem every single human being faces is the cost of dying. We all know we're going to be buried or cremated. It's not a question of if, it's just a question as to when it happens. So people buy whole life insurance because they don't have to take a guess if they'll die before 80 or after 80, like the examples we use with the other term insurance. Whole life lasts your entire whole life. Continue to pay the premiums, and in exchange you have full coverage if you can qualify for it from the first day. And your rates do not increase either, and you cannot outlive it because the company cannot cancel you contractually. They're obligated to insure you as long as you pay your premiums. So pros and cons, and then we'll look at some rates. The biggest pros here is peace of mind. You know that all you have to do is take the plan out, pay the premiums, and it's very likely that you'll have coverage continually as long as you pay the premiums. It's guaranteed. It's not very likely. It's guaranteed. So people like that. They don't like to fool around with life insurance. And while a lot of coverage can sound really good, it's not worth a dime if you outlive it, like with term insurance. So people are attracted to whole life because of those reasons. Also, other benefits of whole life insurance is that, first of all, it's much more flexible in getting coverage in place. What we use are usually for disabled seniors are simplified issue whole life products. What that allows us to do is to better accommodate underwriting problems that may be a problem with term insurance. So again, it depends on your health, but we can get all sorts of people approved for whole life that would be declined with term life insurance. For example, diabetics, cancer, heart history, lung disease, even more severe problems. These have the potential of being qualified. So if you're worried that you won't be approved, don't be. There are definitely options available through simplified issue whole life insurance for disabled seniors. Drawbacks of whole life insurance, look, it's like buying a car with the extended warranty. It's like upgrading to all the best aspects of a vehicle and putting the best insurance on it. If you want the best guarantees, you got to pay a higher price. So for every dollar you buy of whole life insurance, it's not going to give you as much coverage as term, but in exchange, you know you're going to get it. Imagine having $100,000 in term insurance at age 81, and it lasted for 15 years, and then you died. Well, it's no good then. It's not worth anything. But whole life, if you got $20,000 in the same amount, just for sake of example, it's worth $20,000 more than that term plan. So these are things you got to consider. But the con certainly is you're not going to get nearly as much. But that makes sense if you consider the fact you get these guarantees and you get these warranties saying the price never goes up, the coverage can't be canceled as long as you pay, and in exchange, as long as you pay, you can keep it. So let's look at some rates real quick. I'm just going to show you a $10,000 rate for someone who would be approved for the first day full coverage product for a 65-year-old male and female non-smoker. So here you're looking at a $10,000 65-year-old non-smoker male rate for coverage. And again, we show you a litany of companies because it better describes the reality. We look at these companies to try to shop around for you to see which one is best. You cannot tell over a video which company you're going to select, but it ultimately comes down to your unique health profile. But the main point to convey here is if we check out the monthly rates, upper 40s to most likely mid 50s, upper 50s is what you're going to pay depending on what you can qualify for. Now, if we turn this over and look at females, 10,000, non-smoker, 65 years old, you're looking at around mid to upper 30s, all the way up to about mid 40s. Again, lots of companies here, all priced about the same. Which you pick ultimately comes down to your health. So our last option here is guaranteed issue whole life insurance. This is what I call the last ditch effort to get life insurance coverage. With guaranteed issue whole life, the concept here is simple. If you cannot qualify for any other plan, term insurance, whole life insurance, guaranteed issue is the last resort. It will approve you on a guaranteed issue basis, which means there is no health questions involved. As long as you have a pulse, as long as you can fill out your application, many times you can get a power of attorney if you have one, you are going to be approved and have coverage issued. So what are the pros? Well, obviously, everybody can get approved and nobody can get declined. It doesn't matter how bad your health is. You will get coverage. The downside is that coverage doesn't start immediately. In fact, you have to pay in 2 years before your coverage is in full effect. So, for example, if you die 12 months in with these plans, the money that you paid is returned to your beneficiary, so you don't lose the money, plus an additional percentage on interest. Usually 10% is what most companies offer. But the full amount of coverage, let's say it's $10,000, is not paid out. I don't like selling these plans, to be completely frank, but the truth is sometimes it's the only option. And I have tons of people that I've wrote policies with these types of plans that are so thankful for me to do that because they get past the 2 years. And now they have full coverage and they have literally no worry about is their insurance any good when it's going to be used. A lot of people do live beyond the 2-year period of time. There's no way to work around it in these circumstances where I suggest it. But it is an option that you have to seriously consider. So what we're going to look at is rates of the companies that I offer. And again, we're going to look at a 65-year-old male and female, non-smoker for $10,000 in guaranteed issue coverage. So here's your female $10,000, 65-year-old non-smoker guaranteed issue coverage. You're looking at AIG as the primary one we use. It's $54.51 a month. If we wanted to use Gerber, they're a little bit more expensive at $62.61. I usually just pick AIG because it is the lower of the companies and it's a good company. Now let's take a look at males. Non-smoker, $10,000 in coverage, 65 years old, same companies. This is out-of-date rates, but actually AIG and Gerber, you're looking at 70s to 80s for guaranteed issue coverage. So again, part of this process of showing you what your options are is to help you determine what life insurance type is best for a disabled senior. So here's how I can help you further identify which of those options would be best suited for your particular circumstance. So the first thing we have to establish is what are your goals. We talked about this earlier. So if you're a disabled senior and your primary concern is to relieve the financial burden of paying for your burial or paying for your cremation, then it's most likely a whole life insurance plan will be the best option for you. If you have a mortgage and let's say you owe $50,000 or $100,000 and you like the idea of whole life insurance, but it's out of your price range, then a term insurance product is not a bad idea. It will allow you to get as much coverage in that area as you can afford, and then also cover the entirety of the mortgage, hopefully. Much better than a whole life price at the same amount. The other thing you got to determine as a disabled senior is what your budget is. I'm a big advocate as life insurance salesman to impress upon people to buy what's easily affordable. I know, being in this business, that a lot of people are convinced or cajoled into buying something they just can't afford. And so 6 to 12 months later, they will drop it. And I just hate that because it's a waste of your money and it's a waste of our time together mutually. You should buy a life insurance plan. It shouldn't affect your day-to-day living that much. And you should, in a sense, forget about it and know that it's paid. And it will come to life when it's necessary, down the line when it's needed. Anything other than that, a large purchase order on a life insurance plan that pushes the budget, eventually will break the budget. So that's huge for me. Know your budget, what you're comfortable with. A good life insurance broker first is going to shop, like myself, is going to shop the different companies that are out there and try to get you the best price for what you can afford. And if he's good, he will suggest, hey, look, buy something that's comfortable first. You can always add on more. The other question that you got to ask yourself is your health qualify. This is something an agent can help you with. They're going to ask you a series of health questions, and for me at least, in 5 to 10 minutes, I can tell you, okay, if you want term, here's your options. If you want whole life, here's your options. If you want guaranteed acceptance or guaranteed issue life insurance, here's your options. And then you determine based on that if you like it. Note that most disabled seniors are looking for final expense life insurance plans, which means a whole life plan works best. That's usually the case. That's what we see. That's the type of plan that's going to give you the best flexibility in underwriting and the best ability to get what you want. We see sometimes disabled seniors get term insurance. It does happen, it certainly does. But most likely, if you're thinking in that direction of final expense coverage, the whole life plan is going to be the most appropriate. So let's talk about how to qualify for a plan to cover a disabled senior. So pick your agent. That's the idea first. And I'll nominate myself. I've hopefully made it clear that I can help you. I do everything electronically over the phone and through the computer. And what we would do is we would talk on the phone, get to know each other a little bit, and then 5 or 10 minutes later, I would actually have a quote that I felt would be an accurate representation of what you may qualify for. And then we just submit the application. There are applications that are telephonic where you do it all over the phone. And then there's applications where I just email you the application, and then you just go through the process of filling it out. It's very easy. And then submitting it. And then usually you're either going to get a decision instantly or within a couple of days, sometimes a few weeks, rare, but usually it's the same day or a couple of days. And then you find out that your coverage is approved or not. And assuming it's approved, you get your policy in the mail. And that's it. It's very simple. There's no examinations in most of these cases. No going to a doctor and getting stuck with a needle. You just answer a series of health questions, follow the underwriting process, and you find out what your decision is. So if you like the idea of doing a plan and you want to see what you can qualify for, visit buylifeinsuranceforburial.com. I'll give you a free quote. It takes 5 or 10 minutes, or just give me a call. Call 888-626-0439. That's, if you call me, it's going to take 5 or 10 minutes to find that out. If you prefer to start a conversation through email, it's totally fine. There's a contact box at the top of the page, and then at the bottom of the page, there's a chat box. Just send me a message. Tell me what you're looking for, and I'll be happy to help you. If you like this video, leave a comment below, thumbs it up. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already for a lot of useful information. And I want to thank you so much for watching and spending your time with me finding out more about life insurance for disabled seniors.